Right, that was some respondents speaking to us yesterday about the Igbo Apprenticeship System. That's what I said we'll be discussing today. My guests are joining me right now. I will start with Eric Imu Ahia, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Erisco Foods. He's joining me on the phone lines from Lagos. Erisco, you know I call you Erisco. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nancy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I have two other people joining me here in the studio, Dr. Katch Ononuju, as well as Kpenkan Johnpaul, the D.G Nigeria Youth Chamber of Commerce. And Mr. Johnson Chukwu is joining me from Lagos via Skype. Can I see Mr. Johnson Chukwu over there if he's good? So I have a full house with me today. Let's try and dissect, chew, cut this Igbo Apprenticeship System. Welcome, gentlemen, on the show. But let me start with Erisco first. Sir, can you really tell us about your experience? You know, we're talking about this Igbo Apprenticeship System. Talk to me because you're first-hand, with your first-hand experience. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, thank you. This thing about the Igbo Business School is the best option that will happen to any society that actually wants people to be engaged in all sorts of the economy. Because it's about everything you think of life. When we pass through the apprenticeship of Igbo School, from accountability to discipline to everything, how to manage the economy, how to establish, how you are going to challenge your own brain to make sure you make impact before your master what actually move the company forward at that time. So it was one that without that apprentice of Igbo Business School, most of Igbo men have made money. They will have made that money, including I myself. A practical example, and among others. The truth is that everybody must not be graduate before economy will move forward. I used to be very happy when I go travel overseas. I see many people that engage in a lot of technical school and a lot of other businesses that you must not be a graduate. And the economy requires everybody to move forward. Unless and of course when Nigerians think well, that every aspect of every other tribe engage in something, it will reduce the criminal-minded of our own people in this country. Because even in office, they emphasize more on certificates. So the economy is not by certificates. Most of them make money today in billionaires or so. I never see a professor as a billionaire in dollars. It's good to go to school, but we should encourage some people at any stage of time that this apprenticeship issue. I have not seen a good thing that will happen to any nation than this our system.
Okay, let me ask you.
That nobody's copying it, and it's socially dying down now.
Now, let me ask you, sir.
After your government or any,
okay, let me.
Any section of the economy will try to set up.
Yes, sir. Let me just come in here and ask you. You were part of this system. In fact, you just alluded to it now that you were part of it firsthand. Let me ask you, how many years did you do your apprenticeship?
Okay. During my time, a standard year is 5 years anyway. If you go beyond 5 years, I think now it can be up to 7 years. But during our own time, 5 years, because our intention is when we are there with our masters, we try to make impact that the master will now appreciate you what you do. You have to make sure that you consider the law. So by the time you come out, you will be encouraged and supported by your own master to make sure you have a landing point of fun before you now carry on. And I tell you, every one of us that go through this system has the reality of this country at heart.
Okay.
Because you always know or think that everybody on the street, everybody knows you must contribute to this nation. They are all 20. Their mind is working at the same angle.
Okay.
Whereby now that don't go to school, they work is less than 5% or 10% than people that went to school. And all of us want to be color workers in the bank, NMPC, and other things. So the economy will only move better when every one of us will make sure we did the same thing. That for me, I have paid more than 75 if I go to corporate business.
Okay, let me ask you two questions just before I let you go, which is, you said that the system is dying now. Why do you think it is dying, as someone that has passed through that apprenticeship system?
One of the reasons that system is dying.
Hello, are you still there? Oh, okay. It seems to have, it seems the call has dropped. We'll try as much as possible to reconnect the Chief Executive Officer of Erisco Foods, Imu Ahia. But let me continue the program with my guest, Dr. Ononuju. You've heard Chief Imu Ahia, yes. Erisco Foods. He was part of that system. In fact, you've heard him say that he's trained over close to 75 people through that system. What do you think? Quickly, I'll come back to Erisco.
He's wrong. The system is not dying. The system's challenges are now being x-rayed. The system has continued till this day. But then people now interrogate the system. But the system is not dying. No, the system is at the heart of the Igbo's ability to dominate markets. The system is alive and well.
Now, let me bring in Mr. Johnpaul. Do you agree with him that the system is not dying?
Well, you have heard from even the people you interviewed yesterday. Some of them are telling you straight from the field. And we've done some work as the Nigerian Youth Chamber of Commerce on this. At the baseline, we have been able to identify that there are a few challenges that are really, really taking a toll on the program as it is now. Because we're in a fast-paced economy now, the younger people are also losing their patience to stay on the apprenticeship for longer periods of time. Some of the masters too are beginning to be challenged, either by the economic downturn or any sort of thing. And when they don't settle these apprentices, they also try to give them a bad name, first of all, and they're making the matter, really precarious. So we think that the system is challenged by all ramifications. And at the Nigerian Youth Chamber of Commerce, we're concerned about this because we think that this is a vehicle that can create value system for young people, can create opportunities for enterprise and job for the young people. So it's important that they can run through this program and then acquire the necessary vocational skills and entrepreneurship skills to be able to innovate their way into the economy. So yeah.
Mr. Chukwu, let me come to you in Lagos. I did mention earlier that Anambra State has the highest number of Naira billionaires in the country. I know you're not from Anambra State, though, but what would you have to say about this Igbo Business School, the Imu Ahia Apprenticeship System, or what they call Igba Boy, Mr. Chukwu?
Nancy, it was one of the foundations on which the Igbo system was built. It was the system that actually helped the Igbos navigate themselves out of the Civil War.
Yes.
It was a system that has seen the level of wealth creation in Igbo land so far. But I am happy that my co-panelists there also mentioned that the system is challenging. I think the system is fading away. And a couple of the foundations on which the system was built are now being questioned and interrogated by modern societies. And among which is that people enter the mentorship scheme at a teenage age. So most of them enter it before they go to the university, without going to the university. Now people want to go to the university, but by the time you graduate, you're allowed to do interest. So you're no longer at the formative age, and you're no longer subject to the level of discipline that is required under the mentorship scheme. So that is why, and again, a lot more people are now trying to put some structures around their businesses so that they no longer have the informality that supported the mentoring schemes. And these are things we have to look at. We have to sustain that culture. But in reality, that culture was very instrumental to the prosperity we saw in Igbo land. It was quite instrumental to the Igbos quickly building back their wealth after the Civil War. And it has a lot to do with the level of pervasive richness or wealth that you have in a number of Igbo Southeast states, including particularly Anambra State. So, and a lot of the people you have today that are very rich went through that system. But interestingly, because of the formalization of educational system, which most young Nigerians want to go to the university, by the time they graduate, they have gone past the age that is required to enter the mentoring scheme. And unless we have to review the whole process again, we might realize that that system will fade away.
Now, it's quite interesting that, you know, Anambra State, for example, has the highest number of Naira billionaires in the country. And, of course, Anambra State has churned out a lot of apprentices there's a lot of people that went through the apprenticeship system.
Proteges.
Yes, the proteges that have become billionaires right now. We can call names, even Innocent is part of them. Eric Umofia of Erisco Foods, he just alluded to the fact that he was also part of that system. He's trained over 75 people. I think Koskari is a lot of them I can.
Ebeko.
Yes, Ibeto.
Ibeko.
A lot of them. If you go to the marketplace, especially on Onitsha, Alaba in Lagos, Aba, Area Market and all of that, you see even the system is still on. What can be done not to allow the system fade? Can it be improved on? Let me come to Dr. Katch.
Don't forget, this has been the system of the Igbo right from time. It has never changed. Right.
Are you saying before? Because there are also some school of thought that say it's been there before the Civil War.
It was there before the Civil War. It was there even before the British came. The Igbo republicanism is built on this. That's why when the Igbo man serves you, he expects you to, after a while, set him free. It was at the root of the Virginia slave uprising. It was at the root of the Haiti uprising. The Igbo slaves expected that after some period of service, they should be settled by the master. When the master subjects them to a life of servitude, that's where you saw those crises. Check through the history of the slave trade. It's the Igbos that did the crisis in Virginia, in Haiti. It's the Igbos that also had the crisis in the in South America, where the slaves were taken to go and work. Because the Igbo expects not to serve anybody forever. And if you ask me, the Igbo republicanism has actually helped.
Okay, let me call Johnpaul. What are the things that we can learn? This Igbo business model, can it be replicated? I also know even in the south, that's in the west, for example, those days in Lagos, you see like a tailor has a few people that are learning the job from him or her, but that, of course, I think the way they also do it is that they will pay like an entrance fee first, like 15 or 10,000, or allow me learn from your hand. Then after, they would also graduate. They call it freedom. You know, they will have a freedom party and all of that. Are there things that can be learned from this Igbo business school model?
There are critical issues that we need to bring to bear as we discuss this. First of all, of course, Imu Ahia was there way before the Civil War. They became prominent post the Civil War. Why? Because the Igbos were really affected by the war, and they needed to rally themselves together, and they used trade as a basis for rallying themselves together. And a lot of adults, lost their lives too, and there were children and younger people who were left behind. And so uncles and relations had to take care of those people, and the only vehicle to sustain such engagements, was trade. And so it became really prominent. And the way we're looking at it is, in modern times, from 1970 to next year, Imu Ahia will be 50 years. Why we're concerned about that is we want to beam the searchlight on it and look at what it has achieved, in the traditional, raw, cultural form. And then, because today we're all saying that it's been interrogated by modernism, which is a big issue that is also contributing to its waning effect, we think that, yes, it can be modernized. And how do we think this can be done? If you look at our situation in Nigeria, there are over 1.8 million young people that graduate from the universities every year. And only 30% of those go on to get jobs. Now, what happens to the other 70? They do not have life skills, they do not have entrepreneurship skills, they do not have vocational skills. So they are more than stranded. They're not just unemployed, they're really stranded citizens. And we think that this Imu Ahia if it's modernized, it can be a vehicle to be able to absorb these guys.
Now, what do
give
we
them
mean by modernization in this case? Because, you know, there was a time we were talking, and when we were talking about this issue some time ago, I did say, why fix something that is not broken?
Perfect.
Or whether if we bring in modernization, it just makes the whole cookie crumble.
No, not at all. And here's what we think. The modernization simply addresses all the issues of the modern society. One, we dare to say there's nothing Igbo about Imu Ahia. What makes Imu Ahia work is the embedded principles that lie therein. They now happen to be domiciled with the Igbo culture, and it's a good thing for us to learn from. Now, by learning from that, what we want to do is, what are those principles that have made us successful over all these years? And so we take a person like Erisco that we're talking to them, we look at him, and he tells us his story of where he started from grass to where he is in grace today. And we see that he was settled with a little amount of money, but then he was able to grow that fund over a long period of time, and he has, you know, become a successful business person today and becomes a role model, a business role model. What can we learn from this? He will tell you stories about disciplines he had to endure. He will tell you about the values he had to learn. He will tell you about all the challenges he faced and how he dared and stood in their faces. He will tell you about the things he endured. Why? Because he had a goal ahead of him. Now, there's something that's very important I'd like to bring to bear here today. Young people in this country too are beginning to lose the essence of process in getting things done, because there's a hammer mentality in the society. Even the young people who are going through Imu Ahia in modern day today are beginning to lose their patience. They can't wait for that long. Why? Because they see people who are false role models in society with sudden wealth, unexplained wealth, and they want to become like these guys, and they think that the process of going through Imu Ahia to get to that point is too long. And so when they lose that, they begin to lose the essence of their lives. And we think that if we bring this to bear in the public domain and put it there as a public discourse, and we say, look, this can be nationalized. This can be adopted for national, you know, scaling up nationally. So that the guy in Zuru, the guy in Boko, the guy in Zakiba, who decides to use this model would also work. By modernizing it, we would create a framework for those principles. Okay,
let me bring in Mr. Chukwu here. The issue about modernization, can the Igbo Apprenticeship System be modernized across the socio-economic cultures that we have? Mr. Chukwu, are you still there?
Yes, I am. Absolutely. There's nothing that is unique or peculiar to the Igbos that cannot be exported and adopted by other tribes and other sections of the country. The basic thing is to look at that principle like my colleague Johnpaul mentioned there. And among the principles is that, one, the first principle that you get the apprentices at a very young age, at a very formative age. So at that point, their characters are still level. So you can groom them in discipline, in thrift, you imbibe the concept, the spirit of, or the principle of hard work. You encourage them to be energetic. So you define, basically the first thing you get from the mentorship scheme or apprenticeship scheme that your character is molded at a very formative age. And that is why a lot of people pass through that are successful, because they acquire the discipline that you require to succeed in life. They acquire the principle of thrift or prudent management of financial resources. They are taught to be honest and high level of integrity, because you'll be tested with small amounts of money, and how you do will determine whether you get, they will promote you to a higher level of, they are even taught how to supervise, because over time your ranking gets higher, because this is how it works. You come in at a very low level, and then as those who came ahead of you graduate, you are promoted, and then you begin to supervise those who come after you, and then you also become concept of management. So all these attributes can actually be codified and exported to other parts of the country. There's nothing difficult in doing that. The basic thing is that we have to look at some of those factors that are plugging at the principle or the foundation of this mentorship scheme and see how to address them. My colleagues, they have mentioned that people graduate 2021, they don't have jobs, they don't sit for 5-7 years. At that point, if we modify or modernize this concept, it simply means that even institutionalized corporate organizations can take on people for mentorship schemes. If you go to advanced countries, people who are undergraduates, they train them on attachment, industrial attachment, or some form of mentorship. And then within Sometimes you go for those attachments for 1 year, and it's supposed to expose you to the practicality of what you are trying to study or the profession you want to practice. We can also modify this, and then even bring in people who are graduates to come into the mentorship scheme and allow those who have gone through this process to pass on the knowledge they acquired in under that scheme.
Now the question is, even if we allow this to happen, the apprenticeship system with the Igbos is quite different, because at the end of the day, you are with them, you feed, they provide you clothing, they provide you accommodation, they also teach you life skills, however informal it is, or even some of the skills that we go to business schools to learn, you acquire it informally. Accountancy, there's accounting skills, honesty, hard work, just like you've said. The question also is, how can we really imbibe this? Can we imbibe it with a formal educational system?
Exactly what
And is it just 1 year? Is 1 year enough? Because you see, most of these apprentices stay up to 5-8 years.
Perfect.
Yes.
Because this thing is actually built on trust. The trust starts from the village system. First, you need to be going for that Omonade meeting. It's through your Omonade meeting that the other Omonade, the kinsmen, will notice you. And when you're leaving back to the city, you're then required to take 1 or 2 persons. Your eyes, as you come for the home meeting, whether it's going for the August meetings, it's when you also notice those in the village. And then if you're trusted, you can take one of the children. Like me, I did apprenticeship in Aba, but because I had to leave Aba and then go to school in Jos, that just vanished. Because apprenticeship normally comes where the parent is also challenged. If a parent is rich enough to send the child straight to school, that period when you start doing apprenticeship, you'll be spending it in the classroom.
Now the question is, this Igbo Apprenticeship System or the Igbo Business School model, which is a successful business incubator platform, was it accidental?
No.
It was not accidental. But
Yeah, or perhaps let me put it this way. If you have a family that has the wherewithal, would you consider that system or that model still a way to go?
there is a very
Do you
big
understand
debate.
what I'm saying? Dr. Katch, as you are now,
Yes.
would you send your child or your children or your boy child to go and do an apprenticeship with Chief Mafia?
Why not? If that is the
Erisco Food?
if that is the business I want my son to do, and that's what not really happens in our village. When a child is interested in a particular line of business, see where
Sometimes
the
the
problem
child
comes,
the child doesn't have a choice,
No.
or doesn't have a say.
most of the problem we have now is when the child starts expecting salary. In the apprenticeship system, there's no salary. You're guaranteed food, then you're guaranteed transport fare to and from wherever you live and to the market. So it helps the Igbos. Another good thing about the apprenticeship system, because I've seen a lot of societies where people talk about domination. The apprenticeship system, I have pinpointed, is a single reason for the Igbos' capacity to multiply the rich people in any given geography.
Okay. Mr. Johnpaul?
Absolutely, and I can tell you that I know not 5, maybe more than 10 of young Igbo graduates who went to read first-grade courses, pharmacy, law. Some even read medicine and dropped their certificate and went to enroll for the Imu Ahia program.
Of course.
And they are running their businesses, they are happy, they're driving, they're following their vision. So yes, it just goes to, this situates clearly into what we're talking about, the modernity. International Labour Organization has also profiled apprenticeship. This is why this debate is also of modernity is important. So there are expectations. By the time you talk about institutionalizing this, then the whole world is going to now beam the searchlight on this. It's run informally now, and that's okay. People are running it in different clusters and all of that. But the moment you talk about institutionalizing it, then there has to be a framework. And that framework has to be designed to fit with international treaties that are accepted and standards all over the world. And so clearly for us, the focus would be on young people who, because entrepreneurship, it's an opportunity for Nigeria to unite itself across all boards. Why? Because when you're talking entrepreneurship and you're talking resources on the table, nobody cares if you're a Muslim or you're a Christian or you're a Yoruba or Igbo. We understand the common interest that comes with the dividends of entrepreneurship. And we think that this is the only vehicle or the most veritable vehicle to create economic strength for Nigeria. And young people hold the bane for that.
Mr. Chukwu, wow. Is there anything the government can learn from this, or the government can begin to incubate? Because the government has a lot of entrepreneurship programs, in quotes, or let me put it this way, intervention programs. Even the Jonathan days, you win. There's a conditional cash transfer right now. There's NPAR, social investment of this administration. Money. Yes. Is there a way that this Igbo business school model or this Igbo boy model can be adopted one way or the other? Should we now begin to sit down and begin to craft, okay, this has worked and it has produced a lot of billionaires in terms of Naira, a lot of Igbo men, especially of the Anambra extraction, they have so much money, you know. What can we do as a government to begin to encourage this? Is it possible?
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, we can codify it, we can learn from the concept, the underlying principles, and see how we can transfer that into the formal system. I did mention earlier that modern business schools in the world today have what they call mentorship schemes. They will attach a business student, a business undergraduate, and then to a successful business person, and then that mentorship could last for 2-3 years. Sometimes it will require you giving stipends to the mentee, but some other times it may not require you giving stipends to the mentee. So basically what they are trying to do is to try to develop some formal structures that will mimic what the Igbos have under the apprenticeship scheme. So I think there are a lot of things we can learn from it. One of the principles, like I mentioned earlier, you must catch them young. You must get people, develop people at the time when they are their formative age. 2, the principle of determining who the mentor.
Okay, Mr. Chukwu, Mr. Chukwu, let me hold you a bit. I've been able to connect Erisco again, and Mr. Murphy, I hope you are there with me. Can you hear me? Good. I just wanted to ask you 2 questions before we go, because we're going to the end of the show. You actually said earlier that this system is dying. Why do you think it's dying? Very quickly.
Yeah, because the fact is that nobody has tried to standardize the system. Nobody has ever think of supporting the system from one tribal of this country to be general to Nigerian to practice. It's going to help the economy a lot if we can do that. Otherwise, that we leave our small young boys now to be enticed more with fast money, easy money. So the hope of staying being an apprentice now is not as it is before. Because before with the apprentice, our families are our guarantors. Our villages are our guarantors. So when you misbehave, we go get where to go and discipline you. But now, if there is no support, or if the thing is not standardized, it's not supported by government, nobody is holding accountable now for not behaving well, especially the issue of money. So that's why many people like us now, other people, they're very careful to get bring apprentice now and to go and employ somebody.
Okay. One last question for you. You've just brought in another kind of worms, which I think we will expose on another edition of this program. I don't think I'll leave it today. But I want to ask you, if you may, and if you can tell me, how much were you settled with? Because I was speaking with someone, was it some days ago, and he told me that he was an apprentice for 8 years, and when he was leaving, that his master settled him with 12 million naira, which the master now told him that he will pay 30% every year, and when he paid it like a loan, but that the master gave him that money back. Would you want to tell us how much you were settled with when you did your apprenticeship?
Well, I did my own for 5 years, and I was settled with only 4,250 naira.
Wow.
Then, that's what I started with.
Then, what year?
In fact, you've just given me the reason why I asked that question. 4,200 naira you were settled with then? When was that?
That was 1981.
1981.
Perfect.
And yes. Check it out, I think 38 years later. See where you are right now.
Yes, actually, 1981.
38 years
so,
later.
Yeah, that's 91 is because I finished my apprenticeship 2 years earlier. I went to train on another area, which is spare parts.
Yes.
I actually was on textile. I prefer to go on spare parts. I went for spare parts. That's why I took extra 2 years. But my settlement money still remains. When I finish, I continue with it. There's no better option for the whole youth to enjoy in this country and be engaged. Quality engagement without this thing we are saying. Not everyone will go to university. Like in university, we need to stop our boys, give them hope for a certain stage. They join. So if the whole economy will revolve well,
okay.
Everybody will be happy.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for speaking with me. We'll continue this conversation. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, my sister.
Thank you. All right, just before we go, a few seconds as we conclude, because we have to go. Dr. Katch, very quickly.
The apprenticeship system is alive and well. It's actually growing.
No, but
it's
you
being
see,
spread.
Even Chief Eric did say that.
Hold on. What
quickly.
Eric says is it is challenged. It's not dying. I know that.
Okay.
As I'm speaking to you, just get into the markets and you will see a lot of the people with the Igbo traders are not on salary. Yeah. These are apprentices across the country.
Okay.
Fundamentally, the difference between the apprenticeship model and government intervention is the fact that the apprenticeship model forms character of the proteges over time. They are ready, they practice on the field, they have got their hands on the table before money is being handed to them. Sadly, on the contrary note, the government interventions do not put their beneficiaries through that sort of character formation, so they dump money on them when they're not ready, and those monies fizzle out, and those programs are never successful. So what we're saying essentially is X-ray the apprenticeship model, scale it up for adoption nationwide, and let it be utilized everywhere with a modern framework.
Mr. Chukwu, your final thoughts.
This scheme, and then develop it into a formalized structure that we can actually incorporate into modern society. Even as technology and dynamics of business, the economy is changing or challenging the apprenticeship scheme.
All right, you know, I hope we had much time, but I don't think this will be the last, because since the rest of the world have started talking about this, I think we should talk about it more in our country, and it's not just a matter of tribe, so to speak. I was in the market, I went to the market about 2-3 months ago, and one of the shops that I entered that sell wines and all of that, the young guy had given me a price. The elder boy came, and I told him this is the price I was given. The elder boy said, no, why would he give me that price? That is higher than that. Oh, and I'm just graduating next month. Is this how this boy will run the shop? And my master will not be happy. So at that point, he just told me that this Igbo apprenticeship system is still there, even in the marketplace, but it needs to be enhanced. All right, just before we go, let's take a few comments. Stonemaker says, Nancy and Money now, 5 and 6, Igbo boy is here to stay. The boy I buy solar products from was just settled by his master.
Wow.
Doinka Sumo says, we can tackle the patience challenge of the Imu Ahia system by reducing the apprenticeship period for graduate to say to 2 years. Chidi says the Igbo business idea could put Nigeria in the same power with the rest of the world. While Ayola says it's an effective dimension of empowerment, it promotes the spirit of trade development, skills acquisition, and commitment to self-employment. That's the much I can take. Many thanks to you gentlemen for joining me on the show. I've been speaking with Dr. Katch Ononuju, who is an economist. I've also been speaking with Kpenkan Johnpaul, D.G Nigeria Youth Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Johnson Chukwu over there in Lagos, the MD, Cowry Assets Management, and of course, Eric Umofia, the Chief Executive Officer at Erisco Foods. We've been looking at the apprenticeship system by the Igbos. That's the Igbo business school model. I'll still take a look at that. Many